Hi, welcome to the Run Testers. My name's Kieran and I'm here today to have a look at this. This is the Nike React Infinity Run. It's the latest shoe in the Infinity range from Nike, and essentially this shoe is for your day in, day out runs. That's the idea. There's a lot more cushioning going on. There's arguably a lot more stability. That's the claim that Nike made anyway, and the idea here is that you've got a shoe that can even prevent injuries. So for all those runs that you're going to be doing 3 to 10 miles, training runs, you know, just your general day in, day out shoe, this is what this is for. And my fellow run tester Nick and I have been putting this through its paces, and we're here to give you a review and let you know how we found it. So let's take a look.
So when it comes to kind of the key specs and standout features of the shoe, the really obvious place to start is with the kind of big stack of cushioning, kind of HOKA on a style of cushioning that has been put on the bottom of the shoe. The stack height's pretty big, like it's 33 centimeters at the heel for men, 31 centimeters for a woman's shoe, 24 at the toe for men and 22 for 0.5 for women's shoes. So the offset's 9 or 8.5 millimeters. That's quite high, basically. It's a big old stack of cushioning. But you can also see that the way it's positioned allows it to rock the shoe forward. So the kind of heel to toe rocker, again, is something we've seen on HOKA shoes in the past, but it really kind of enables a kind of smooth transition despite this big old lump of foam on the put on the bottom of it. The foam uses Nike's React foam, obviously, judging by the name, which is durable, it's bouncy, it's basically like kind of like ZoomX, but it's not as good. ZoomX is stuff in kind of the Vaporfly and the Peg Turbo. It's a bit heavier, but it's still bouncy, it's more durable, it's just nice foam to use. The weight of the shoe is reasonably light. It's like 293 grams for a men's size 10 and 230 grams for a woman's size 8. So again, it's not a massive clunker. It's not actually as light as a lot of HOKA shoes because the React foam isn't as light as the EVA foam HOKA use, but it's by no means like an unwieldy beast. And it's going to be priced at $129.99, which is the same price as Nike's Epic React shoe, which is kind of the first shoe they launched with this React foam.
Okay, so let's get into it. I've tested these out on a range of different runs. I've run a lot on the roads. I've done various different distances up to a half marathon, lots of 5Ks. I've done lots of sort of 8-mile runs where there's a little bit of light path, if you want that park path, and lots of tarmac. And I have to say that in the time that I've been wearing these, I found them to be super comfortable. That's the first thing. They are an extremely comfortable shoe to wear. I think the uppers kind of melt away around the foot. They hug nicely. Your foot feels secure in them. I'm a big fan. I've got a sensor on here I'm testing at the moment as well, so ignore that, but I don't want to take it out, it's a pain. These, I'm a big fan of these collars, really thin collars. I love the way they sort of sit really close to the ankle, or just below the ankle, but they, you know, there's not too much padding there, there's not too much going on there, and it's a bit minimal, but it's really sort of cradling. And I think in the heel as well here, you know, the heel sits back nice and snug and it stays in place. The uppers, I have got quite sort of high, big feet, wide feet, fat feet, whatever you want to call it. Of the run testers, I am the fat-footed one. And often too tight kind of flying it uppers like this, where you have this kind of one piece, there's no separated tongue, they can bear down a little bit too much over the top of my foot. And I had that sensation initially when I put these on, but actually over time, they sort of seemed to mould to my foot, and actually they became sort of supremely comfortable, and they had that kind of hugging feel that I think just gives you a feeling of security, which I really like. You know, the laces for me didn't really need to be tightened too much. So if you've got big high feet, maybe that's going to be a consideration. I thought the fit into the toe box was ample. I quite like a roomy toe box, and there felt to me like there was enough room from the feet to breathe here. But you know, I guess the big kind of the big point here is all about this sole and how that feels on the run. Now, you know, there is a lot of midsole going on here, and there's a silhouette which isn't unlike, I think, that the Vaporfly and shoes that are higher up and up the range of kind of the faster shoe end of the spectrum, whereas this is a shoe for day in, day out. And I think that's quite deliberate from Nike. This shoe, if you run in it day in, day out and then move to a Vaporfly or one of those shoes that's a bit more for racing and for faster performance, I think there's a continuity there. You certainly feel, I think, there's responsiveness out of this foam and this cushioning with the React foam. There's also a rocker motion that is not unfamiliar. If you've ever stepped into a pair of HOKAs, you'll be familiar with that, and there's a big nod to HOKA here in this shoe. One of the questions that we had was about stability, and what Nike did was they made this area much wider than other shoes. So the idea was that actually in that sort of forefoot sort of toe off, that you get a little bit more stability in there too. And while I think that is present, and I do think you notice that, for me personally, I still found these were a little bit, there was a wobble when you ran, particularly at slower paces. It was fine when you're up on your toes and you're moving at a clip. At slower paces, there was still a little bit of wobble side to side. And I don't know, I don't normally wear stability shoes, but if you do wear proper stability shoes, maybe these won't be quite what you're looking for. I think that's up for grabs, and I'll be interested to hear what Nick has to say about that. Overall though, I've loved the running in these. I've actually, you know, they've sort of, I always know if I've got a good shoe if actually I'm testing them, and then they just become part of the shoe that I go to pick up when I go out to run, and these have definitely dropped into that category. One of the things that I'm not so keen about, you can see that I've run a lot on roads, I've run a little bit on sort of muddy paths, but you know, not hugely, and you can see these have picked up the dirt really quickly, and part of that, I don't know if you can see, is really down to the uppers, which, you know, there's kind of two layers in there, and the mud gets in between them, and then you are not getting it out, not with a cloth anywhere or a brush, which is the best way to take care of your shoes. So, you know, if you're bothered about them being white, good luck. If they come, you know, if you like, you know, buy them in a darker colour. So if you flip them over on the bottom, you can see we've got, I guess, a reduced amount of outsole rubber here, and this has been designed to, it's basically put in the right places. It saves weight if you haven't got it all over the bottom. The argument here is it's going to add a bit of durability, and it gives you the grip just where you need it rather than all over the shoe. I don't know. I mean, so far so good, no wear, and actually I think these are relatively grippy shoes. They've felt solid on corners in the wet. You know, here in the UK it's been raining a lot over the Christmas break, and roads have been a bit slippy, and these performed admirably on that. So I'm so far so good, happy with that. I think actually, you know, as it goes for a daily shoe, I give these sort of a really solid thumbs up. I think they run well, they run comfortably, they are good, they do feel fast enough over those shorter distances, and yeah, I think all good from Nike here. I really like this shoe.
So I've tested the shoe for over 100k now, really like running in it basically. So a lot of that, I'd say, you know, 70% of that's been easy mileage, and it's a shoe that's brilliant for that. But I've also done some quick runs in it. I did like a half marathon around 126 and kind of session at like 6-minute miling in it, along with some strides. So obviously it's really at its best for kind of steady long runs, those kind of easy efforts where it really is smooth, rolling from heel to toe. Just feels like very supportive, very comfortable. Can pick up the pace in it. Like I wouldn't say it's like an outstanding like track shoe or a speed shoe, but it's not a slow shoe. I think if you're kind of like fairly new to running, it'd be a great kind of for all your training, and you could use it for long races as well. Like if you've just started training for your first marathon or something, it's not going to let you down really badly when it comes to like faster pace efforts. The uppers really roomy. Part of the thing about this wide base on the shoe is that it's actually made the toe box much wider than a lot of Nike shoes, and with Flyknit, that's a real bonus, because sometimes Flyknit comes up really tight. So this has got loads of room in the forefoot, to the point where if you've got really narrow feet, you might even consider sizing down. Like it fit true to size for me. I think my feet are pretty normal width, and it was just really comfortable in that roomy, you know, toe fit. You still get a decent lockdown from the laces, so you don't have to worry about like it's too roomy. You're kind of slipping around in there. It's still a decent fit. But yeah, if you have really narrow feet, I'd consider sizing down. So really, a lot of what's going on with the shoe is Nike kind of positioned it as a shoe that it could even help, you know, almost like a stability shoe without stability features. This kind of band runs around, gives you a little bit of stability. I don't think it's like an all-out stability shoe. Like over-pronators will need, you know, probably will still need to go for a traditional stability shoe, but it just means for neutral runners like myself, there's an extra bit of stability there, which is obviously accentuated by this massive wide base. It's not at all intrusive, and you know it's nice. It's, you know, for again if you're logging long miles and training, and you're doing a lot of running, having that extra stability is going to be a bonus. Like it's a cushion shoe, it's a protective shoe. It's just going to help you out really on that front. Nike also kind of mentioned that it's a shoe that's going to help counter injuries. That's based on a really small, like, little study thing they did against one of their own shoes. I would kind of ignore that. Like, injuries in running really isn't caused by shoes most of the time. It's caused by running too much too soon. Like, you got to build up your mileage slowly. Don't do loads of fast stuff suddenly. Like, Nike said they're going to do some stuff with their training app, which will kind of guide your training. That's going to be a lot more important than wearing the right shoe when it comes to getting injured. So I'll kind of ignore that stuff. But it is a shoe that's comfortable to wear for like lots of mileage, just because of the amount of cushioning and the kind of that slight stability that you get from the back of this band around the back. So my verdict, I think it's an absolute winner. From like, Nike's on a bit of a roll at the moment. I don't really buy into this idea it's going to reduce your injury risk. Just set your training up correctly, that'll do that. I do like the React foam. It's basically a HOKA shoe with React foam, was how I'd look at it. And HOKA always uses EVA, which is lighter, but it's a bit firmer. It's more responsive, but it's not kind of like, this is quite a bouncy shoe, but it's also smooth. Like, I think the React foam just responds well to different paces. I really like it the way it feels. I liked it in the Epic React, and I like it in this shoe. If you didn't like it in the Epic React, it's similar. So I don't know. It's a bit of a kind of, like, well, here's HOKA without buying a HOKA, but at the same time, I do like the React foam more than the HOKA shoe. Myself, I would only ever use it. I'd use it for a lot of my running. I wouldn't use it for kind of race pace sessions. I wouldn't use it for track days. Obviously, I wouldn't use it for races itself. I'd go for something faster and lighter. Then I've done reasonable tempo runs, and it was fine for that. And it can just eat up a lot of your mileage in the week, and that's really useful to have that kind of workhorse trainer that's comfortable to use for those so much of your running which isn't done at that kind of high pace. I'd say for other runners, like beginner runners, it's a great shoe. It's an all-rounder shoe. You could do loads in this. You could race in this. You can do everything in it. Shoes I compare it to, obviously HOKA. So HOKA Clifton 6 is a shoe that's like it. It's a lot softer that, and I think I prefer this for kind of holding a good pace over long runs. And another shoe is like the Asics Glide Ride, which has a similar rocker, but it's really firm. The Glide Ride for me, like it feels much more intrusive, the rocker on you, and I didn't like it. I found it very clunky to run in. This is very smooth. And then another shoe I think I quite compare it to is the Saucony Triumph line, which is a really big cushion shoe, but designed for kind of long mileage. But it's quite responsive. You can do fast running in it. It's kind of cushioning without like just completely making a clunker. And I think that's what the Infinity Run is. Like it's sportive, it's cushioned, it's protective, but you can run pretty quick in it, and it could be a good all-rounder shoe for someone who's just started running.